I'm Gabe Lullo, and welcome to the Do Hard Things podcast. We're talking to go-to-market leaders and entrepreneurs who have conquered the challenges, the hustle, and the grind. Get ready for real talk, real insights, and no fluff.
But the hardest thing in the world right now is not actually closing deals, it's actually getting somebody's attention.
If you don't have that hook in that first 5 to 10 seconds, guess what? They're going to scroll to the next one.
You need to go in and you need to make it sound like yourself. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle. And I promise you, we can all tell.
The people that are trolls and the people that are haters never done the thing that you're doing.
I love doing this podcast because I get a front row seat to some of the greatest minds in sales.
Gone are the days of saying stay in your lane. When you're an executive leader and you're an enterprise-wide leader, there are no lanes. You've got to be partners.
Curiosity is like when the type of questions you ask is sometimes the value that you bring.
I need you to tell me when you're ready to buy or what you're ready to do. And I think it's changed so much into like adding more value. And if you're not doing that, then you're definitely going to come off as desperate.
High pressure selling is like a dinosaur tactic at this point.
No parent is like, oh, you should be a salesperson when you grow up, right? Everyone's like a doctor, lawyer, whatever crap. It's never salespeople.
It's not your job to motivate people. It's your job to find motivated people.
It's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's confidence knowing I know this and I know that I can help you.
From where I started to where I am today is all because I learned how to sell.
And there's too many people who have only been doing this for 5 freaking minutes. Sit down, close your mouth, actually go out there and get yourself beat up. Then come back and tell me if something is dead or not.
That is exactly why I started this podcast, because right there, that's the epitome of doing hard things.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Do Hard Things podcast. I am super excited to be introducing you to Lori Kirkland. She's the Chief Product Officer at a company called Deep Human X, and they're an AI enablement agency. Lori, by the way, obviously we're excited to have her on because we're talking about AI today, and AI is, of course, changing the landscape of sales, marketing, and business as we know it. So she's going to go deep into what her perspective is within AI and in the industry that we are a part of, sales and marketing. And she's also a people person, not only just AI and technology. She's a seasoned leader with over 15 years of experience in driving this transformation at the intersection of business and technology and human behavior. Lori's super passionate about bringing humanization at the forefront of business, blending innovation, strategy, neuroscience to create customer-centric solutions. She's a knack for building high-performing teams and orchestrating change. Lori excels in motivating organizations to break through barriers and move into action. So enjoy the show. Lori, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. We're super excited. And your background, as I just mentioned, is absolutely awesome. So take me through it. I'd love to hear your origin story. As we say on Do Hard Things, it's very rare that I have someone on the show that went to school for what they actually do, right? And, when it came to me, no one goes to school to be in sales, and yet we find ourselves in this role. And then, we've done something right to be successful. And obviously you've done something right to be successful, or you wouldn't be on the show either. So walk me through it. Like, what's your origin story and how did you get passionate about what you're doing?
So funny enough, I went to school for neuroscience, right? I went to University of Michigan, go blue, and thought that was where I wanted to go, knee deep in science, just, more research, medical school, something like that. A couple of years into doing some neuroscience degree, I realized that I'm a much more of a people person. So I shifted at that time over to technology and have spent the last now couple of decades, right, knee deep in technology and understanding it. But the funny thing is all through my career, I have also done sales, marketing, a lot of strategy, a lot of innovation and evangelism. But the funny thing is I actually still use my neuroscience degree constantly because now I lead an AI company, right? How do we merge humans and machines? And I use a lot of that neuroscience background because people operate with patterns. We all have our own human operating system pattern. And so what I did was took my love of how people think and I actually use it now to help other executives, leaders, team members, really anybody adopt the mindset needed to embrace the change that AI is bringing.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I think if we had to pick one word in 2025 or even 2024, that was probably the most trending word of the year, it would be AI, right? Artificial intelligence. Like that is what everyone's talking about. And that's why we wanted you to come on the show because, it's a disruptor. It's doing some amazing things. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people are excited. A lot of people are nervous. A lot of people are hoping for things it can and can't do. So I have a lot of questions. I know Lexi does as well. I guess my first question is, as you see this intersection right now that we're in, and I will say it is 2025, so I do want to date this because we can't predict everything, right? But like, where do you see AI as really, strategy or even in customer centric transformation right now, right? In business, how do you see it coming out and where have you seen it come from?
So I think right now what's happening is people are learning to use chatbots, which is great. There's a lot of technology out there. There's a lot of products out there, but really where I see people playing the most and making the most impact is when they look at their own world and they try to figure out what problems can I have a machine solve? Like if I hate something, I'm going to go to a chatbot and say, "Hey, how can I do this differently or how can I think differently?" So I think that's really where 2024, 2025 is. We're seeing a lot of businesses take on agents. So people have said AI agents, which are the idea of replacing a human. But as those agents are coming out in 2025, it's getting really clear that machines can't replace humans. There's different type of thinking, creativity, innovation, critical thinking that machines don't have, right? We are evolutionary machines of adaptation. And so humans have this really cool leg up to actually start saying, well, if I've got machines to do a lot of this transactional work, what can I do for my customers? What can I do for my employees? What can I do for humanity? So I'm seeing everyone from an SDR to executives really looking at AI as a way to remove some of the mundane stuff now, but also help them to hope and create better outcomes for the future. So that's a big shift I'm seeing is that the mindset is moving from activity only because we have machines to help us with that activity and starting to look at bigger outcomes.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So when you're bringing AI into different business practices, does it come up a lot where teams or individuals sort of feel threatened? And how do you go about making them feel more comfortable?
Yes, fear is a real thing. I don't know if you're a human alive right now who hasn't felt the fear of AI, of political situations, of global situations, right? There's a lot of changes happening. And so fear is probably one of the things that why Deep Human X was actually even founded was because we understand the technology and we have a lot of design thinking, customer experience principle practices that have, we've learned through the years, lots of war stories. We see that addressing that fear is a common thing. And the easiest way to do that is for people to start taking inventory of what is it they're fearful of. And the way that we address that is first off by saying, your job isn't going to be replaced by a machine. You're going to be replaced by somebody who's AI augmented, right? And the clearer they are on where they want to go, that's probably more of where the fear should come from. But the truth is that fear is completely irrational, right? Like it's a real thing. But if we look at ourselves as just adaptable beings and kind of the way that we're wired as humans, we're actually that's our biggest advantage over any other being on this earth is that we can change. And so in the face of fear, what we really work with clients to do is to bring it up and become aware of what is the bigger goal you're trying to get to, right? Revisiting your bigger purpose as a company, as a human being, so that you can all of a sudden realize that that fear doesn't have to take up so much of your mind space. Because honestly, if you start thinking about the bigger picture, you're going to get more excited about that rather than sitting with the fear.
Yeah. So here's a story. 30 years ago, my uncle was working at Ford. Okay. So he actually worked at Ford and put cars together, and it was on an assembly line. And there was obviously the introduction of the robot on the assembly line. And it was a very manual process, and everyone was very fearful, and people were starting to get laid off. And all of a sudden, robots came in and literally started replacing humans. But what he did is he went back to school and got degrees in how to fix, because he was a mechanic. So he actually fixed all the things that broke on the assembly line. So he actually came in and started understanding, how do I fix robots when they break? Right. And he retired from Ford and he never got laid off. And the plant went from, 100% capacity to one third capacity. And he was there the whole time. And the reality was, is because he advanced himself and he, got, like you said, enabled and adapted the change when everyone else was picketing outside. And the point of my story is that I see that as a very similar analogy now. But here's the question: where do people get enabled to understand how to use AI without just sitting in front of Chat GPT at home asking it questions? Like what, like, right? Like, what do you like? How do you get good at this stuff?
Well, so I am going to say start with ChatGPT or any LLM, right? Any of them, and start asking, like, hey, I have this reoccurring problem, or this is my industry. I'm a professional in this. And ask the GPTs, say, "Hey, what other areas can I look at or what other areas can I focus on?" So I would say you can do that, because here's what's different about your uncle stories than today is information is democratized. All of your years of expertise that I didn't graduate high school yesterday, in case you guys couldn't tell, but all of my years of expertise, right? Um, those, not that they're not good, they've taught me how to think, so they're really important, but the actual knowledge or technical knowledge, that's available to anybody at any time, and that's gonna be a great, game changer for people who are interested. And the way that I think you have the ability to adapt is not to adapt by what the market is saying, but adapt to what you're interested in. So start exploring things that, maybe you put your guitar down when you went into the corporate world. Pick up the guitar again, right? Start exploring the areas that are of interest to you, and then as the change is happening, you'll be able to get more in alignment with what you want out of life, right? The things you value, the things the company values. It will make that change easier. So I don't know this, but I bet your uncle didn't go to school and say, "Hey, and just want to fix robots." I imagine there was a little bit of a road for him to actually end up there, to figure out, like, oh, I like doing this. I still like mechanical stuff and it. So that would be my advice: is start chasing your joys in life and see what interests you, because with AI and the automation, you're going to have a whole bunch of free time. You might as well be filling it with stuff you like, and then bring that joy into your work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's great. I know obviously I play around on ChatGPT or other tools all the time, and you see great things, new features. Now you can upload files, create images, so many trends. How do you envision AI continuing to evolve in the business world?
So I am absolutely humble enough to say I don't know the answer to that. I don't think any one person knows the answer to that, but it's coming, and it's coming fast. And if you look at, like, past changes throughout humanity, whether it was like the Egyptians, whether it's the Romans, the Greeks, right? Like, big things that happened, it was actually humanity who decided what they valued to go into the next thing. So, of course, we all want ease, right? We want as little pain as possible. But with AI, I actually see, looking into the future, less screens, not more screens, funny enough, to enable us to do things. But I think that in the workplace, the skill that's going to really stand out is creativity, and being able to use critical thinking and relationship building. So being able to be better at the human skills that help you understand the bigger picture as change is unfolding.
Love that. Okay. So my biggest thing with AI right now, especially in the sales game, is trust. Right. And so in sales, it's relationship building, everyone says, which it is. And it's about building trust. It's about building that bridge. It's about building that, relationship with that person to buy. And the reality is like, I find just myself that I just have this I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm an Italian and I like people. I don't know. It's just like this barrier of like wanting to trust it. And I've studied it, right? We've tried to, use AI to make phone calls and use AI to do things. And for some reason, we're finding that a lot of people are just, not trusting it as much. Is even though it's supposed to be much more accurate and more informative than even us. So why do you think that is? And then do you see that metamorphosizing into a relationship that is more trustworthy soon?
I think that with trust, it's really interesting, right? Trust is way beyond a like one thing, right? As humans, you're reading my facial expressions, listening to the tone of my voice. We're listening, looking at the lighting and the sounds around us. So we have a lot that actually goes into a lot of sensors that are beyond just your thinking that actually help you as a human being establish trust, right? Well, we don't have that with AI, right? This is a one plain two-dimensional thing, but yet it feels like it knows a lot about us, right? And that feels scary. So I think in the short term, the mindset shift is going to be really important, right? To say, okay, things are changing, but I'm going to treat this like it is, someone who is a year or two out of school who may not have the experience yet. So I might have to do some hand holding. Um, and I would not say put all your eggs in one basket and, give everything over to AI yet. We're not there yet. But I do think that we'll come to a place to where in the workplace, and this is where I've seen some clients be really successful, where they let AI handle things that machines should be doing anyways. Like you mentioned, sales reps. Like can we just get conversations uploaded into Salesforce without any, our CRM without actually recording it? Because I don't know a salesperson who loves detail-oriented tasks. There might be some, but there's very few, right? And so it is about starting to get that mindset and figuring out where and when we should use the technology. And that again comes from more human skills, right? Which is shifting using the machine for the things machines are good for and using humans for the areas that humans are good at. And humans are really good at trust. You haven't survived this long because you haven't figured out who to trust or who not to. So my advice to people would be figure out again for yourself what are areas that you just want to get rid of and start playing there. And once you start playing around with it and you start seeing the separation between machine and human, because right now it feels like it's all one, um, it becomes clearer. So I do think that we'll have trust with AI, but we still have to figure out, from a society level, what are we willing to give it and what are we not? And what do we want to build for the future? That's the other thing is right now we have the past to look at and we don't know what the future is. So there's not like a place to put my trust in and follow, right? And that's where those human skills come in of like, well, hey, we need lots of leaders to come up with creative new ways that could be an alternative to the way we've been doing business.
Awesome. Do you find that with trust, there's a generation that accepts AI easier? Do you think a lot of younger people coming out of college are more excited to use AI than others, or do you find it's across the board?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's definitely a generational divide, but you know what? Maybe AI will be the opportunity to have the real conversation, right? Like we've got digital natives. I'm not a digital native, but right, and I have two kids who are, and their willingness to accept is the same way my willingness to accept technology changes through my life happened. But I think that AI is going to one, it could become nice and humbling for everybody to be like, hey, we're actually working together towards something bigger. But there is going to be a shift from I'm the leader and I know everything to okay, I don't know everything and I have to ask questions differently. And that's where the skills of maybe older generations might be easier for them to ask questions, whereas it's easier for younger generations to understand the technology side, but maybe not the human side. So I actually think there's going to be this nice marrying. Of course, I'm the ever optimist that maybe the generations will collapse and this will give an opportunity for each sides of, the not being afraid of tech and adopting it, as well as learning more human skills, that there might be a way for those to come together and dissolve some of the generational divides.
Awesome. So I guess, do you have, and this may be a tough one, but you have industries that you think just won't be touched by it and others will just be dramatically shaken up and disrupted by it? You feel like it's just going to be everywhere in all places?
Well, again, being the optimist, I want it to be everywhere at all places because, like, this is an awesome opportunity to change a lot of the things that we don't like about certain industries, right? Nobody I know loves being in back to back meetings all day long, right? Nobody I know loves all of the processes that they have to, update so and so for, to do 20 TPS reports, right? Like, nobody loves. So let's get rid of that a little bit. When I think of industries, I think healthcare is probably the most exciting, and I've just seen so much movement within healthcare. Not a lot of public use cases yet, but there's a lot of stuff going on to be like, man, we can save lives with this. We can build better detection machines. We can build, better records so doctors can spend more time with patients. So I think healthcare is already moving and is ripe for disruption, which is probably good for any of us, right, who have to work through the system, so to speak. I think there are some laggards, but I think, I feel like some of the, like, financial services may be a little bit slower to adopt or feel the need to be forced to adopt, yet because of the complexity of their systems, they're also probably some of the most ripe areas for disruption because, right, machines can do can do algorithms. People can actually get their thinking in their heads to turn it into algorithms. So a lot of predictive analysis that has been done by seasoned professionals, I could see being changed. So the whole wealth management game. I also think that sales is ripe for disruption too. I mean, it is the people essence. It's the people who are connecting businesses and companies. And over the last few decades, with the dot com and everything coming, we've kind of separated that out. And I feel like the sales teams are going to be able, sales and marketing both are going to be able to get more content and more of the tactical stuff done so they can actually work on improving the relationships with the actual people involved.
Right. Well, I could talk about AI all day, every day. For some reason, it's just so cool to hear from you specifically. But you also build high motivated teams and you're building, a human organization as well. And I'd love to hear, just some of the thoughts on your experience there. Right now you're orchestrating systems, but you're also orchestrating people and you're getting them to work in, unison. So from a collaboration, just a leadership standpoint, when it comes to the people side, what do you consider an important factor for creating just that successful collaboration between?
I mean, I think that we have to get back to more true collaboration, less order taking, less this is what I need, this is my predicted deadlines. Right? Like a little bit less control, which is going to be hard for a lot of organizations to do. But again, that's where I talked earlier about creating revisiting your purpose together, your personal one and the company's is so important because having implemented technology and had global teams for 20 plus years, I know that probably at least 50 or 60% of any implementation or any change is really work that's done on the people side of things.
Right.
So at Deep Human X, like I said, we focus on, yes, there's a lot of technology. We are technology agnostic. We understand how it works, but we understand that there is a lot of change management and mindset shifts that need to go on from every level, from your boards, from your executive teams, down to individuals. And the easiest and fastest way to get there is through collaboration, is letting individuals contribute and then coming into groupthink. I don't know. Have you guys heard of design thinking? Probably through the year. Yeah. It something that came about at Silicon Valley, but everyone kind of has adopted it. But there's some really, really easy principles to use. But that is a lot of foundational thinking of getting collaboration made easy, right? Like being able to do things in 90-minute, 4-hour segments, a day long session where you're getting people aligned around here's the outcome that we need and less around give me your plan, show me that you're plan is foolproof, and instead being like, you get 2 weeks to get me some sort of outcome. And that is where you start seeing shifts in collaboration and trust is when humans are like, oh my God, I have something to work for. I have something that's bigger than me and I'm part of a group because we all want to be part of the tribe, right? Like that is feel wired for that.
I love that. I have a thought here. So, how do you use AI in your leadership approach to foster that collaboration and motivate your team towards shared goals?
I so a lot of self-reflection. I definitely use AI for my own personal growth. But so, for example, one of the things that we did recently with a client was that we actually had the company's mission, mission and vision up there, and we actually then had people run through prompts to figure out what their own values were. What are the top 3 things that you value, those big life questions that are never talked about at work. And then we did some exercises to align those personal values to the company's mission, right? Like that's a way of getting people to feel like now I'm personally invested because I can see an outcome for me. Much of the time, the way work has been done, going back to the production line, Henry Ford and the production line has been like, you do this part and you stop here. But I think AI will allow us to, instead of having to make sure this and this is complete and stop at this chunk, it'll actually allow us to start thinking together faster, better. And then here's the cool thing is you're in a room collaborating around, okay, I see my mission, the company's vision. I'm able to then align with that. Now we can go and with AI, we can get a prototype done, or we can get a idea board or map like done, within 30 seconds. No longer is it 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, right? So there's a lot of immediate results from thinking together that I think can happen.
Okay, so people, right? You're building trust, you're building collaboration, you're building unification, but we're in a remote world, and technology, again, going back to that, has allowed us to have conversations like this, and live on Zoom and Teams and all these Slack channels. And so, how do you feel like the best way to create that human culture in this remote atmosphere that we're in and bring humanization in a very tech enabled workplace?
That's not like answered easily for every situation, right? So I don't have everyone's answers. If I did, it'd be a different scenario. But I've also worked since 2007 with global teams, and I know for many people, the pandemic was like a shift to remote versus online, but it can absolutely be done. And probably the easiest tactical thing to do is set a cadence. If you have a global team, make sure you're setting, once every 2 weeks or once a month, that you're setting a time that is, state of the union, what's going on. And it's not the leader talking, it's letting people have the water cooler conversation. In technology, they do things like agile sprints. Now, those are way more than just a technical process. The whole idea is that you have 2 weeks, they're usually 2 or 3 week cycles, and you have 2 weeks to learn, test, fail, but you have to have an outcome. So your commitment to the team actually is accelerated by every 2 weeks, not by what activity you've done, but have you solved the problem moving forward. So that's something that I've seen work really well is setting up a cadence of touch points. And then Slack and those things are great, but make sure you're not only using it for business stuff, right? Make sure that you are, sending some memes and some lighthearted stuff too. Otherwise your culture will be very stale and dull.
Yeah, it's funny because Lexi knows this, but I was at Loop here for a while, and we were building teams very successfully. But then we went fully remote, and I also left the company, but I went and I ran 2 software businesses, and that's really where I learned agile, waterfall, stand ups, sprints, everything. And I came back to Loop, which is just again no software, no tech, it's all people. But we brought in a lot of those strategies that we learned in that project management and that development life cycle into our people life cycle. So, our operations team, we do a 30-minute stand-up every single morning, Monday through Friday. And it
Beautiful.
may seem monotonous, and some of my other friends of mine who don't work here are like, "You're crazy. You do it every day? Like, can't you just put that in email? Can't you just do an email?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can, but it's punchy, it's fast, it's quick, and we are always in sync. Like, there's no like, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I should have, and so it just nothing falls through the cracks." Lexi, what do you do you like it? I mean, she says she does, but what are your
Yeah.
thoughts, Lexi, on that?
No, for sure. I love our morning calls. I think they're great. It's really nice to not start your day because it's not exactly when we start, but in the morning, get together, hear what's going on in the different departments, and really align. So there's so much good that comes out of it. And we always get to talk to start it off and more personal than about work. So it's always a great conversation, and you get to really connect with your coworkers when you're a lot farther than them than it seems.
Well, and you get to hear what their thinking is, right? Like
Yeah.
if they encountered a problem, you get to hear how they think about it. If you, stand-ups are great for that because you're like, oh, it's got to be quick. It's very important that you keep it timed, that they don't, stand-ups don't go 2 hours, right? Whatever time you say, you keep to it. But it allows people to be like, oh, I don't actually have anything today because I rocked it yesterday and I have no problems and nothing to talk about, which is great. But then when you're hearing other people, it gives you in the struggles they have. One, it makes having struggles out in the open. Like, I'm not sure why I did come from a corporate world where you just were not supposed to talk about. The unwritten rules is you don't say anything is wrong. And that kind of environment just stifles innovation. It stifles problem solving for the appearance of order, right? And stand-ups provide a great way for me to say, "Oh, Lexi's sharing this problem today. I had no clue that she was even dealing with that or how much it affected her." Like, there's your human to human connection, which is building trust. And it just sets the tone, it sets a place and a time for human connection. Even if you're, I mean, let's be real. We all know you're multitasking on some of those. You're not paying attention every second, but at least you're giving yourself, your heart, that opportunity to connect. Which is why I go back to like cadence being the thing. It's more of the reliable, when are you going to show up, than it is necessarily um, than it is necessarily like what time frame it is or anything. It's how can you give people a place to be like, here's the goal you need to work towards, and not overwhelm them with here's your roadmap of 495 things.
Yeah.
Can you
Like,
update?
here's your quarterly goal. I'll see you in 3 months, right? It's like, what?
Right.
100%. So, in winding down, it's interesting as you're leading a company, and, content is the thing right now, right? And, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you know, as a leader of a business, we'd be like, yeah, that's marketing stuff. You know what I mean? Go build white papers, go build case studies, go build a cool website, go build a nice landing page. And that's what marketing was. But now marketing is this, content creation, LinkedIn posts, copywriting, videographers. Like, we've taken this TikTok, Instagram, world that we live in off work, and now we're bringing it into work. And I feel like every CEO, every founder, if they're not an influencer, right, they're behind the times. So how do you look at content creation right now when it comes to just building new business?
I liked your influencer analogy. I am by no means an influencer, but I do, as a strategist, see that there's a different currency of how communication is happening anymore. It's happening, right? It used to be at the golf club and the country club, on Friday afternoons. That's gone. What's gone now is content being out there. Recently, actually, just in the last week, the Spotify CEO had this put this memo out to employees that was leaked that said it is everybody's job to be using AI and figure out how it works. And he even went so far as to say you can't hire you can't hire a new person without justifying that AI can't do the job, which is, I mean, it is the most aggressive we've seen out there. And I'm so excited about, like, yes, it's changed, but that is because the currency of communication is changing. It is no longer a one branded message going out from the marketing team. Now, right, because of the democratization of data, anyone can get the information. people are looking at your company and they're looking at all parts of your company. From your engineering team, they want to hear about what problems they're solving. Not that they have the answer or not what system product they're using, but what problems are they solving and how did they get through there? Or how did they talk with the business, right? There's a big merging of business and technology going on where they were separate for a long time. So I think that the CEO or the Spotify memo was really good because it's inducing change, but it's also like making it's hopefully moving towards where more people understand the currency of communication is content.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What type of content do you find resonates most with leaders navigating this digital transformation?
I still think the fear thing is there's a lot of everyone has a product to go out, that has the silver bullet solution. And I think that there's a lot of just wading through that we help our clients with. Um, and then the bigger question, the bigger thing that I think that a lot of companies are resonating with is how do I make the shift from I've been really successful operating in this model for years, but that's changing. And now I have to think differently. And what are the things I want to keep and what are the things I want to let go? So in our content and probably where we see a lot of problems, juicy problems we're helping people solve is figuring out how do you prioritize what to work on? And how do you also stay in alignment with where you want to go. Because there is just because of that increase in content, there's way more content. So it gets harder to sift through. But that's where that purpose driven or getting your values, we have found to be the simplest to help leaders to understand, hey, this looks like it'll actually help you solve a tactical problem here, but that's not in alignment with your values or what you really care about for the company. So that's great, but let's move on. And that's where it's a lot of sifting right now is what I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said a line, and the other question is like you don't look at yourself as an influencer, and nor do I. But then again, I was actually walking down the street the other day in my hometown, and someone said, "You're the guy from LinkedIn." I'm like, "Oh my god!" My wife, I was so embarrassed. She's like, "Oh," she's just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is happening." But the reality is like how do you get that? Like you said before, like prioritizing it and calendaring it, but how do you encourage people? Now we have account executives and SDRs listening to this that they need to be doing content, in my opinion. We have chief executives, founders, CTOs. They should be doing content as well. But how do you encourage them to jump in the deep end and just do it? Especially from someone who you considers themselves not an influencer, right? But by the way, has a podcast, and I was on your podcast, now you're my podcast. So, I mean, you're doing it. But so how did you get to that cliff and say, okay, I'm going to jump?
I'm going to go back to a very human answer, which is chase your joy. Start sharing things that you're interested in. No longer is the picture perfect executive like the ideal, right? Like we are in a changing world. We're in a very complex world that's only getting more complex at a greater speed than we've ever seen. And so what I would say is start creating content. And it doesn't mean for LinkedIn, but it means maybe if you're into a type of music or you're into something spiritual or whatever your interest is. I'm a big gardener. I love gardening. I can't even tell you how many gardening sites I'm on. But find your community people and start practicing there. That's a great way to start
Great advice.
to see like, hey, oh my gosh, you know what? I can do beautiful little pictures of gardens all day long and it brings me joy. And that is where it becomes easier. So then you start seeing like, oh, I have to just give short little snippets of content to put out because otherwise it feels overwhelming. Like otherwise you're trying to represent your whole personality in one post. And that is really scary. Everybody feels that.
Right.
So start smaller and then chase the things that give you joy.
Love it. Well, that's a great place to end. Thank you so much, Lori, for being on the podcast. How do people get, well, actually, before I ask you the question, who do you want to talk to? Who is the right person that should be calling you and saying, you know what, let's have a conversation?
Definitely chief revenue officers, human resources, really any leaders that have teams. We have a really strong go to market approach. We also have some cool use case studies. So those would be the top people that we want are leaders who are understand that the change is happening and are looking for some guidance of how to become AI enabled, human enhanced, and purpose driven.
Love it. And how do they get a hold of you?
You can go to www.deephumanx.com, and we offer very short webinars and seminar series that we can come to your office and do, like I said, 90-minute, 4-hour, day-long workshops. We're not about moving in. We are about coming in, dropping some thinking, helping you think differently, and start getting AI incorporated into your company today.
Awesome. Lori, thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to having this show get out and everyone hearing it, because it's changing. AI's here and you guys got to embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.